Cobalt. I am the god of Cobalt. Please shower me with goodness. Welcome to Reality Creative Video. I'm Hermes. Today we're going to talk about cobalt. A while ago, a few of you asked about creating colloidal cobalt. Well, finally got around to doing colloidal cobalt. Now, if you're seriously interested in making colloidal cobalt, listen to this entire video because there's precautions with cobalt, dosage information, and things like that you're going to need to understand before you want to take colloidal cobalt. And I would definitely have you suggest that you search Google and the web for precautions on taking cobalt in general. Cobalt supplements, which I don't even know if there are cobalt supplements. Cobalt is a necessary part of the human body. It is responsible for blood cells creation and energy and all that stuff. So you have to have cobalt in your body. Now here's the kicker. Cobalt seems to only come from vitamin B12. It's somehow shackled with the vitamin B12. There's cobalt in there, and the cobalt helps the B12 be absorbed into the body. Without cobalt, you can't absorb vitamin B12. So, taking colloidal cobalt as a supplement may or may not be useful to the body because you're putting cobalt in there by itself, without the vitamin B12. So, is the body going to be able to absorb it? There's no way of knowing, okay? There isn't any studies on that. But I would at least think you might have to take vitamin B12 supplements if you're going to want to take colloidal cobalt as well. And let's face it, if you need cobalt in your body, you're going to be low on vitamin B12. So it is possible that by taking colloidal cobalt along with vitamin B12, you will increase the amount of B12 going into your body. Because I don't know if any of you had experience with low, blood cells and things like that. It takes a while on vitamin B12 to build up the blood levels once they've dropped lower. So certainly if taking like a few drops of colloidal cobalt along with your vitamin B12 will help that absorption ratio go through the roof, hey, then that's all the better. But I have no clinical proof on that. I'm just showing you how to make the cobalt and telling you about what I found out about taking colloidal cobalt. So, like I said, this is 500 milliliters of colloidal cobalt. Now, it's a very light cyanish color. And I'll show you a picture of it compared to distilled water. Because it's very hard to tell the difference any other way except sitting next to a beaker of distilled water. That you even got this light tint to it. Now I used a coin, a cobalt coin, because the wire was astronomically expensive. It was like $90 for a 50 centimeter piece of wire of cobalt. So I went with the disc. And as you guys know, I have this special disc thing. And when you put the disc in, just put, as you can see the little halfway mark here, just put the alligator clip up here on top and just let the bottom half of this sit in the liquid. Don't put the top of the alligator clip in there or you're going to get nickel or copper or whatever is plated on there in your thing as well. So, and let that cook. Now, here's the thing. I cooked this two ways. First, I cooked colloidal cobalt with nothing in it. Took about 3 hours. It wasn't a fast cooking thing, and I had this lightly tinted thing. And when I put it in the microscope, and I'm sorry I didn't actually show a picture of it in the microscope before I trashed the stuff, it was weird. It had all these explosions going on in there. And that's usually not a good sign. That's a sign that the colloidal it can't stay together. It's breaking apart, which does happen if the binding agent is not proper. Now, of course, with nothing in the solution, we didn't have a binding agent, but some, like with silver, doesn't require a binding agent. So, hydrogen and the oxygen in the water is a good binding agent for silver. But, so what happened was after 24 hours, the little bit of colloidals that I had left in here were completely gone. And I had blue stuff, blue cobalt oxide, floating around in the liquid in chunks and stuff. So that didn't work. So my next attempt was using sodium citrate. And as you know, sodium citrate is like the go-to guy for stabilizing colloidals. It works on most colloidals to stabilize it. So like I do in the chromium video, colloidal chromium, when I make that, I did the same thing with cobalt. I used the current meter, and I dripped the sodium citrate solution, my stock solution of sodium citrate, which I have a video. I show you how to make these. I'll put a link in the bottom to that. And I dripped in until it reached 5 milliamps of current. And then, believe it or not, the process wasn't any faster. I let it cook for 3 hours. But every 15 minutes, I had to wipe this thing down because it had this blue oxide building up on it. Cobalt oxide, cyan oxide, greenish, bluish oxide. Show you a close-up picture of that. I'm sorry I didn't take a picture of it when it was all caked on this thing. That would have been nice, but you'll see that it. So you're going to have to wipe this down quite frequently because once this oxide builds up on here, it seems like it protects the surface and then you don't get any more cobalt in there. So because of that, this is why it takes it'll take like 3 hours to get to this sort of light color. I've used about 30 milligrams of material off of this disc. And I'm estimating, with the amount of oxide I had to wipe off of here, I'm estimating about 15 milligrams of material was used to create the 30 parts per million that you're seeing on the microscope there and in the video. And that's been 4 days now, and so it's still stable. Even though it's still stable, I would recommend colloidal silver that you mix with your colloidal cobalt to stabilize it. Actually, mixing colloidal silver with whatever colloidal you'll make is always a good idea because it helps keep the colloidal things from growing in the colloidal if you're going to do long-term storage of the colloidal, because the colloidal silver is a natural antibacterial, antifungal stuff. And I've had stored long-term colloidals here that gone bad because I didn't put colloidal silver in it because bacteria over several months started to germinate in there. So what dosage do you need to take of this stuff? Well, I've broken it all down. I did the math. I hope I got the math right. This gets a little complicated with parts per million and micrograms and things like that. Daily minimum dosage, the daily recommended dosage for cobalt is 5 to 8 micrograms a day. 500 milliliters, assuming 20 parts per million, 30 part per million solution, you're looking at a half a teaspoon of cobalt of this solution. Now, don't go over that amount. Start with that half a teaspoon and take it from there and see how it goes. That way you'll be well within the recommended dosage for cobalt for the day. Okay, I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover on cobalt, and the rest is up to you guys. Leave me feedback in the comment section if you're taking cobalt and why you're taking it, and if what the effect that you're feeling from the cobalt, and as well as the dosage that you're taking. That's all. That information is all useful because there's not a whole lot of information about cobalt on the internet. So I would be very interested to see what's going on with those of you that are taking it. I'm Hermes. This is Reality Creative Video, and I will talk to you again soon.